I have discussed in detail the basic definitions of probability and certain rules based on the basic definitions. They are addition rule, a generalization of that called the general addition rule. We studied the concept of conditional probability, multiplication rule, the theorem of total probability, Bayes theorem, and concept of independent events. Now, today I will devote my time to solving some of the problems of probability. In your school books you might have seen that there are many problems. So, I will solve many problems which are of similar nature and a few problems which might have appeared in some of the competitive exams like joint entrance examination, etcetera. So, let me start with some of the problems, and these are basically applications of all the theorems and formula that we have studied till now. So, let me start. So, let A and B any two events and some conditions are given. Probability of A complement is given to be 0.3, probability of B is given to be 0.4, probability of A minus B is given to be 0.5, and we are required to find probability of B given A union B complement. So, we are asking a conditional probability of B given A union B complement. So, let us see by applying the formula for the conditional probability, what is the expression for the probability of B given A union B complement. If you remember the formula of probability of E given F, it is probability of E intersection F divided by probability of F. So, this becomes probability of B intersection A union B complement divided by probability of A union B complement. Now, let us look at the numerator here. So, let us simplify this, that is probability of B intersection union of two events. So, we can apply the distributive property of unions and intersections. So, this becomes B intersection A union B intersection B complement. So, we get it as B intersection A. Now, B intersection B complement is nothing but empty set. So, now you are saying this union phi. So, it is nothing but probability of A intersection B. So, that means the numerator probability is equivalent to probability of A intersection B. Now, if we consider say a Venn diagram here and event A and event B, then this is A intersection B. What is given to us? We are given probability of A complement. Now, if probability of A complement is given, you can easily find out probability of A, probability of B is given. What else is given? Probability of A minus B. What is A minus B? You can easily see that this part is the probability of A minus B, which you can also say A intersection B complement. Therefore, the set A is equivalent to A minus B union A intersection B. That means, we can write A as A minus B union A intersection B. That means, probability of A is equal to probability of A minus B plus probability of A intersection B. That means, probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A minus probability of A minus B. Now, we are given here probability of A complement is 0.3. So, probability of A will become 1 minus 0.3, that is 0.7. So, this is equal to 0.7 minus probability of A minus B, which is 0.5. So, this value turns out to be 0.2. That means, probability of A intersection B, that is this numerator quantity, is 0.2. Now, let us look at the denominator. So, the denominator is probability of A union B complement. On A and B complement, we apply the addition rule. So, this is equal to probability of A plus probability of B complement minus probability of A intersection B complement. So, you can actually see that in the formula for the addition rule, I have written the formula probability of A union B. So, here B is replaced by B complement. So, there is no difficulty in writing down this term. So, once again you see what are the values that we are supposed to write here. Probability of A, that is 1 minus probability of A complement. So, that is equal to 0.7 plus probability of B complement, that is 1 minus probability of B. So, that is 1 minus 0.4, that is 0.6. Now, what is probability of A intersection B complement? Now, from the Venn diagram you can see B complement is this entire portion and A, the intersection of B complement with A is exactly this portion, which I wrote as A minus B. So, this A minus B and A intersection B complement, they are the same. So, that is equal to 0.5. So, you can evaluate it, this is equal to 0.8. So, in the expression for probability of B given A union B complement, the numerator is probability of A intersection B, which is 0.2, and the denominator, that is probability of A union B complement, is 0.8. So, let us substitute here to get the value probability of B given A union B complement as 0.2 divided by 0.8, that is equal to 1 by 4 or 0.25. Now, you see what are the principles of the probability that I have used in this problem. First is the definition of the conditional probability. Then in resolving the numerator, I have used the distributive laws of set theory, and then we get empty set, etcetera. To calculate probability of A intersection B, again I have used the additive property of the probability, because I needed probability of A intersection B, which is not given here. But whatever is given here, I just saw through this diagram that we are given what is probability of A and we are given what is the probability of A minus B. So, from here we can easily calculate the probability of A intersection B in this particular fashion. So, this value is coming out. To calculate the denominator, I use the addition rule, and this gives you the value 0.8. So, the purpose of solving this problem was to show that if the probabilities of certain events are given, then using that we can evaluate probabilities of various related events. Let us take a similar problem again. Let A and B be any two events with probability of A union B is equal to 0.7, probability of A is equal to 0.5 and probability of B is equal to say 0.3. Find probability of A given B complement. let us look at the solution. We are required to find probability of A given B complement. If we apply the conditional probability, then it is probability of A intersection B complement divided by probability of B complement. Again you can see probability of B complement is available from probability of B. Let us look at this numerator here. Now, numerator is probability of A intersection B complement. Again through a Venn diagram we can easily understand. If this event is A, this event is B, then A intersection B complement is this part, which is actually A minus B. We are given A union B, A and B. So, if we can look at A intersection B, we can calculate using the from the addition rule probability of A union B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. So, that gives us probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A union B. I have written this form because the values of probability A, B and A union B are available to us. So, we substitute it here and get 0.5 plus 0.3 minus 0.7, which is equal to 0.1. So, the probability of A intersection B is equal to 0.1, that is this part. So, now since the probability of A is given to me, we can calculate the probability of A intersection B complement by taking the difference. So, we use the another formula now, that is the probability of A is equal to probability of A intersection B plus probability of A intersection B complement. That is the probability of A intersection B complement is equal to probability of A minus probability of A intersection B. Now, in this one you can see 0.5 is the probability of A and probability of A intersection B we calculated to be 0.1. So, this is equal to 0.4. So, if we substitute probability of A given B complement, we calculated it to be probability of A intersection B complement divided by probability of B complement. So, we substitute the values 0.7 divided by probability of B complement is 0.7. So, that is 0.7. So, that is equal to 4 by 7. Again you can see that in this particular problem I have used the formula for the conditional probability, and in order to evaluate the terms of the involved in the ratio, we have used the addition rule, because the event A we have split as A intersection B and as A intersection B complement, and then for B complement we have directly calculated. Let us take one more example. Let A and B be two events with probability of A is equal to 0.5, probability of A intersection B is equal to 0.2 and probability of A given B complement is equal to 0.4. We want to find what is the probability of B. So, we will try to use the equations here. Probability of A given B complement, that is equal to probability of A intersection B complement divided by probability of B complement. We have just now seen that the probability of A intersection B complement is nothing but probability A minus probability of A intersection B. So, these values are given to us, we will utilize them, and probability of B complement is 1 minus probability of B. So, this equation then becomes, the left hand side is 0.4 is equal to probability A is 0.5 minus 0.2, that is probability of A intersection B divided by 1 minus probability of B. So, this is a very simple equation and we can easily solve it. So, we get 1 minus probability of B is equal to 3 by 4, which implies that probability of B is equal to 1 by 4. So, basically in these problems you have seen that using the basic rules of probability, we can evaluate probabilities of certain other events. Let us continue with some more problems. An urn has 4 coins and it is given that 3 coins are fair and 1 coin is biased. Then the probability of head for the biased coin is 3 by 4. So, that means 3 coins are fair. So, here the probability of head and tail is half each, and for the biased coin the probability of head is 3 by 4. So, the probability of tail will be 1 by 4. A coin is drawn at random from the urn and tossed. What is the probability that a head is observed? If a head is observed, what is the probability that the biased coin was drawn? Here you can see that the problem is in 2 steps. Firstly, a coin is drawn and after that the coin is tossed. So, naturally, the coin can be a fair coin or it can be a biased coin, and therefore, the probability of head will be dependent upon whether the fair coin was drawn or the biased coin was drawn. So, this is a perfect setting for application of the theorem of total probability. So, let us look at it. So, I define some events, let H be the event that a head is observed, and I also define events, let E be the event that a biased coin was drawn and F is the event that a fair coin is drawn. then what is the probability of H given E? H given E means that from the urn we draw a biased coin and then we toss it. Then the probability of head will be 3 by 4. What is the probability of head if a fair coin is drawn? Then the probability is half. Also, what are the probabilities of E and F? Now, there are 4 coins, out of which only one coin is biased. So, if we are drawing at random, the probability that we draw a biased coin will become 1 by 4 and the probability that we draw a fair coin, it will become 3 by 4. So, we have evaluated basic probabilities which are related to this problem. Now, what is asked? We are asked what is the probability that a head is observed. So, head is observed means probability of H. So, we want to find out what is the probability of H. So, the probability of H is, now if we apply the theorem of total probability, then it is H given E into probability of E plus probability of H given F into probability of F. All the terms which are given in this equation, they are available to us. Probability of H given is 3 by 4, probability of E is 1 by 4, probability of H given F is half and the probability of F is 3 by 4. So, we can just calculate these values, it is equal to 9 by 16. So, the probability of head ultimately is 9 by 16. Let us look at the second part of the problem. The second part of the problem was, what is the probability that the biased coin was drawn if a head is observed? That means, it is the reverse, because we are asking the probability of the event which appeared first. So, because coin is drawn first. So, we now know the final outcome. So, what is the probability of E given H? So, by Bayes theorem it is H given E into probability of E divided by probability of H. So, all these terms are available, 3 by 4 and 1 by 4 divided by 9 by 16. So, it is equal to 1 by 3. Let us try to review this. What is the probability of E? The probability of E is 1 by 4. Okay. That means, since there are 4 coins, out of which only one coin is biased. So, the probability of drawing the biased coin was 1 by 4. Now, if the outcome is known that it is head, then the probability of biased coin has increased from 1 by 4, it has become 1 by 3. The reason is that there is more chance of head from the biased coin. Therefore, the probability gets revised. So, this is actually the advantage of the Bayes theorem. That means, by knowing the final outcome, we are able to revise the probabilities of the prior events, the events which actually occur before. And as I had mentioned to you earlier, that this is very useful when we want to find out the causes of accidents, some mishaps in the factories, some forensic investigations, etc. In all these places, the Bayes theorem plays an important role, because we can actually revise the probabilities of the prior events dependent upon what is the final outcome, which is known to us. Let us continue and look at some other applications. A pair of dice is rolled until a sum of 7 appears. So, if the dice are tossed, then both the dice have some upper face value, say 2 and 3 etcetera, 3 and 4, 3 and 3, 4 and 2 etcetera. So, we look at the sum. So, that sum is recorded. So, when the sum 7 is observed, then we stop. So, we want to find out the probability, find the probability that the sum 7 appears first on the third roll. Okay. First of all, if we toss a pair of dice once, so we assume fair, let me write it here, fair dice, so that the probability of each outcome is equal. So, there are total 36 cases. Now, out of those 36 cases, which cases lead to the sum 7? So, let us look at the possibilities here. If we say sum is the 7, then we can have 1 6 and of course, 6 1, then we can have 2 5 and 5 2 and then 3 4 and 4 3. So, if we consider this event as E, that the sum is 7, then it is consisting of 6 elements. So, if we look at the probability of E, that is equal to 6 by 36, that is 1 by 6. Let me call it probability as P. Now, the next question is that what is the probability that the sum of 7 appears first on the third roll of the pair of fair dice? What it means? It means that on the first roll we do not get the sum 7. That means, event E complement happens. Similarly, in the second toss also the event E complement occurs. Then in the third the event E occurs. Now, again here we make the assumption that the tossings are independent. That means, whenever we toss and we record, then second time the tossing is independent of the previous toss. Therefore, we can actually apply the multiplication of the probabilities. If you remember the definition of independence of events, we say events A, B are independent if probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A into probability of B. If we have 3, then we have several conditions, but all of them mean that probability of the intersections is equal to the product of the probabilities. So, we apply this now. So, probability of sum appears first on the third roll. So, that is equal to, so we can say E complement occurs on first roll, then intersection E complement occurs on second roll, intersection E occurs on third roll. So, I have written the event sum appears first on the third roll as intersection of 3 events. So, E complements that 7 does not occur on the first roll, 7 does not occur on the second roll, and it occurs on the third roll. It is intersection of the 3 events. Now, because of the independence of the trials, this becomes probability of E complement on the first roll into probability of E complement on the second roll into probability of E. Now, in each roll the probability of E and E complement they remain the same. So, we calculated the probability of E as equal to 1 by 6. So, the probability of E complement becomes 5 by 6, then again 5 by 6 and then probability of E, that is 1 by 6. So, we get 25 by 2 1 6. So, if we analyze it carefully, what are the principles of probability that have been used here? Firstly, we have used the mathematical definition of probability or the classical definition, because we have considered fair dice. So, the cases are all equally likely, all the 36 cases are equally likely. Secondly, we have used the independence concept, that means, the roles first, second and third, they are independent, therefore, the probabilities can be multiplied. Let us look at some further applications of this rules of probability. So, let A and B be two events which are independent with, say, probability of A minus B is equal to 3 by 25 and probability of B minus A is equal to 8 by 25. Further, probability of A is given to be greater than half, then you have to find what is the probability of B. From the given information, we have to extract the probabilities of A and B, and ultimately we are asked to find probability of B. Additional information that is given to us is that events A and B are independent. Let us see first of all through a Venn diagram that what are the probabilities that are available to us and how we can utilize them. So, suppose event A is here and event B is here, then A minus B is this term. So, this probability is given to be 3 by 25 and similarly, B minus A becomes this. So, these are the values that are available to us. In order to make use of independence, I need probabilities which have intersections available to us. So, what is given to us? Probability of A minus B. Now, A minus B, as you can see, it is also probability of A intersection B complement. You can see from here. If I take B complement here, then that is the external set, and taking intersection with A will give me this region. Similarly, if I look at B minus A, that is equal to probability of B intersection A complement. So, these values are given to us, that is equal to 3 by 25 and this is given to be 8 by 25. Now, we will utilize the condition of independence. So, first of all I will prove that if A and B are independent, then A and B complement is independent and B and A complement are also independent, because then I can write these as the product of the probability of A and probability of B complement, and here I can write probability of B into probability of A complement. So, let us first prove this. First we prove that if A and B are independent, then A and B complement are also independent. Okay. So, if I consider probability of A intersection B complement, now we have already seen that probability of A intersection B complement can be written as probability of A minus probability of A intersection B. In our one of the earlier problems we have used this thing. So, I am not proving it again. Sorry, A intersection B. So, this is equal to probability of A minus Because A and B are independent, this can be written as probability of A into probability of B. So, here you can take probability of A into 1 minus probability of B, which is equal to probability of A into probability of B complement. So, probability of A intersection B complement is equal to probability of A into probability of B complement, which is the condition for independence. Similarly, we can prove that A complement and B are independent. Basically, what we are saying is that if two events are independent, then if I take complement of one of them, then they remain independent. If I take complement of both of them, they also remain independent. If I just extend this argument on the next set of events. So, this means that we are having probability of A into probability of B complement is equal to 3 by 25. Let us use some notation. Let us write, say, P is equal to probability of A and Q is equal to probability of B. Then this implies P into 1 minus Q is equal to 3 by 25. Similarly, probability of B intersection A complement, that will become probability of B into probability of A complement, that is equal to 1 minus P into Q, that is equal to 8 by 25. So, I have two equations and two unknowns. P minus P q is 3 by 25 and Q minus P q is equal to 8 by 25. So, if I do some manipulation here, in fact, I subtract equation 1 from equation 2, then P q will cancel out and you will get. So, let me write 2 minus 1 gives Q minus P is equal to 1 by 5, that is 8 by 25 minus 3 by 25, that is 5 by 25, that is 1 by 5. So, let me call it equation number 3. Now, from one of these equations, suppose from this Q value I put here. So, substitute using Q from 3 in say 2, we get 1 minus P into P plus 1 by 5 is equal to 8 by 25. This is a simple quadratic equation. You can actually write it. It is equal to P square. So, if I consider this minus P square plus P minus P by 5 plus 1 by 5 is equal to 8 by 25. So, we can further simplify, this is minus P square plus 4 P by 5 plus if I bring it to the left hand side, I get minus 3 by 25 is equal to 0, which is same as saying 1 by 5 minus P into 3 by 5 minus P, or you can say with a minus sign here, is equal to 0. So, this means P is equal to 1 by 5 or 3 by 5. Let us look at the condition given in the problem here. It is given that probability of A is greater than half. So, since I got two values 1 by 5 and 3 by 5, I will go for the value 3 by 5 here. So, we can utilize here the second option, since p is greater than half, we take probability of A equal to 3 by 5. Now, if this is 3 by 5 and if I substitute in this, I get q is equal to 4 by 5. So, this was our original intention to evaluate the probability of B. So, the probability of B we are getting to be 4 by 5 here. Now, you can see in this particular problem, we have used the concept of independence and then the idea of complementation is used, and then it is something simple. We are using simple mathematics, where we are solving two equations in two unknowns. Of course, the equations are not linear, but they are easy to solve. From substituting from one of them into another, we get a simple quadratic, and that quadratic can be solved, and then using the another condition given in the problem, we are able to finally get the values of the required probabilities. So, let us look at some more problems here. Two fair dice are tossed together. What is the probability that the product of the numbers is divisible by 6. So, when the two fair dice are tossed, we look at the numbers observed on the upper faces and we multiply them. So, what is the probability that this product is divisible by 6? So, their total number of cases here is 36. The total number of outcomes is 36. Now, out of this, in which outcomes we have the product equal to which is divisible by 6. So, let us look at that. So, let me define the event A, that the product is divisible by 6. Then what are the elements? If the first one is 1, second is 6. If the first is 2 and second is 3. If the first is 2, second is 6. If the first is 3 and second is 2. If the first is 3, the second is 4. If the first is 3, the second is 6. If the first is 4, second is 3. If the first is 4, the second is 6. If the first is 5 and the second is 6, and if the first is 6, then whatever be on the other one, all of them are divisible by 6. So, 6 cases, 6 plus 6 12, and then you have 2 3, 3 2 and 3 4 and 4 3. So, 6 plus 6 12 plus 3. So, we have 15 cases. So, probability of A is equal to 15 by 36, that is equal to 5 by 12. Let me just ask another question in this problem. Okay. In this problem, what is the conditional probability that the sum of the numbers is at least 10 given that the product is divisible by 6. So, let us define the event B, that the sum is at least 10. Then what are the elements in B? You will have, see, if we have the first number as 1, 2 or 3, then no matter what we obtain on the second one, the sum can never be 10. So, the first number has to be at least 4, then the second can be 6. If the first one is 5, then you can have second one as 5 or 6, and if the first one is 6, then the second one can be 4, 5 or 6. So, if we want to calculate probability of A given B, then we need probability of A intersection B divided by probability of B. Now, how many elements are there in A intersection B? So, let us look at this. 4 6 is here, 5 5 is not here, because here this is not divisible by 6. 5 6, 6 4, 6 5, 6 6. So, out of these terms 5 terms are common to A. So, the probability of A intersection B becomes 5 by 36, and the probability of B is okay. I have actually asked what is the probability of B given A. So, it is B given A. So, in the denominator I will have probability of A, that is 5 by 12. So, that is equal to 1 by 3. You can see, if I directly look at what is the probability of B, it will be 1 by 6, because it is 6 by 36, whereas the probability of B given A is 1 by 3. So, conditioning substantially changes this probability. An experiment has two possible outcomes. The first occurs with probability p square plus p by 4, and the second with probability 3 minus p by 4. What is the value of p? So, I am saying the experiment has two possible outcomes. So, the probabilities of the two outcomes are given, their total sum must be equal to 1. So, we will have p square plus p by 4 plus 3 minus p by 4 is equal to 1. So, this will imply that p square is equal to 1 by 4, which will give me two values of p, that is plus minus half. If I take p is equal to plus half, then the probabilities of two outcomes will be if I put p is equal to half, this will give me 1 by 4 plus 1 by 8, that is 3 by 8, and the second value is 3 minus p by 4. So, that is 3 minus half, that is 5 by 2, then divided by 4. So, it becomes 5 by 8. So, 3 by 8 plus 5 by 8 is 1. If p is equal to minus half, then the probabilities of two outcomes so p square plus p by 4. So, this will become 1 by 4 minus 1 by 8, that is 1 by 8, and the second one is 3 minus plus. So, that is 3 plus half, that is 7 by 2 by 4, that is 7 by 8. So, again you can see that the sum is equal to 1. So, now you see this problem is an illustration of the exhaustive nature of the outcomes. That means, if I have all the outcomes listed. So, in this case I have made it simple, we have only two possible outcomes. Now, using that property we are able to solve a certain equation. Of course, the equation becomes extremely simple, it is simply p square is equal to 1 by 4. Now, what happens that usually when we say p is equal to plus minus half, we will say that take only p is equal to half and ignore p is equal to minus half. Now, that may lead to some sort of mistake, because suppose there is a question where multiple correct options are correct, multiple options are correct. In that case, both the options are correct, whereas if you ignore p is equal to minus half, actually it is a valid option, because this is also leading to correct values here for the two outcomes. Only thing is, here you have 3 by 8 and 5 by 8, and in the second one you are having 1 by 8 and 7 by 8. Each of coefficients a, b, c in the system of linear equations a x plus b y is equal to 0 and b x plus c y is equal to 0. This each coefficient is determined by tossing a fair die. Okay. So, that means, if we toss once, whatever number is there we call it A, we toss it again, whatever number is observed we call it B, and we toss it again and whatever number is there we call it C. What is the probability that the system has non-trivial solutions? Okay, what is the meaning of non-trivial solution? See, if we look at a homogeneous system of linear equation, then if we put x equal to 0 and y is equal to 0, then it is always a solution. So, we are looking at the solution which is having values not 0. So, in the system of linear equation you might have done the Cramer rule. The condition will come that this determinant, or you can say a c minus b square, must be 0. If a c minus b square is not equal to 0, then the only solution is 0 0. So, we need the condition is a c minus b square is equal to 0. So, what are the cases for a b c? You can have 1 1 1, 1 2, 4, 4 2 1, 2 2 2. So, you can see here b square is 1, a c is 1, b square is 4, a c is 4, b square is 4, a c is 4, and so on. So, you have these cases 3 3 3, 4 4 4, 5, 5, 5 and 6, 6, 6. The total number of cases is 8. 8 cases are there. So, the required probability will be 8 divided by, now the total number of cases when we toss a die 3 times. So, it will become 6 cube, that is 216. So, if we simplify, that is equal to 1 by 27. In this problem little bit of mathematical knowledge is also required, but of course, the system of linear equations, at least 2 linear equations you are doing in your class 11 and 12. So, you should be able to solve. In the next lecture, I will solve several problems related to probability, and there will be some problems which are taken from some of the question papers, and I would request you to go through the chapter on permutations and combinations, because some of the problems may use these things. So, it will be better if you go through the chapter on that, so that the problems understanding will be much better. So, in the next lecture, I will devote problems on various kind of applications of probability.